thank you for coming out tonight. I can get through this presentation in a little under an hour. Please feel free to stop me if you have questions. You can either unmute yourself and ask, or you can type it into chat and I will go ahead and answer. My name is Miria Gray. I'm the Community Education Officer here at Chelsea Groton Bank. And what I like to ask is if there is anything that you are looking to walk away with tonight knowing. So is there a specific reason that you're here? You can feel free to send it to me in a private chat so that you don't have to say it out loud, and I'll make sure to touch on it before the end of the class if it's not already included in the presentation. So what we're going to cover today is expense tracking, calculating income, setting financial goals, creating a budget, and some resources that are available to you. So tracking your spending. So before we start budgeting, one of the mistakes that people often make is they're like, well, I'm going to do a budget. So they sit down with a piece of paper or on their computer or the pad or whatever it is, and they say, these are the expenses that I have. This is how much money I'm making, and here's my budget. But that's not really how we have a tendency to live our lives. So before you start making a budget, you need to know exactly how much you're spending right now. So the only real way to do that is to track your spending. So you used to be able to do it. You used to have to, have a piece of paper and write down things every single time that you spent money. You would have to write it down. But now that we all use debit cards for the majority of our purchases, we have online banking, we are able to see and get our monthly statements that spell out basically where we're spending every penny of our money. So we do not have to track anything by making notes anymore, but we're going to look at things like bills and loans and your living expenses, entertainment funds, and groceries, and everyday purchases. So gather 3 months of your bank statements and highlight each of these topics with a different color. And we're going to talk about what falls into each category as we get into the budget. But you can make them whatever color you want, clearly. Clearly, housing doesn't have to be yellow. It could be pink. There is no law saying that housing has to be yellow. But so housing yellow, make anything that has to do with your automobile or your car green, any liabilities that you might have blue, and personal expenses in pink. So these are going to line up with our budget. And then we'll be able to see how much we're actually spending. And you will see that there'll be a lot of pink on those bank statements. Those are personal expenses. So every single time you stop at Dunkin' Donuts or go through the drive up or stop at the grocery store when it's not a grocery store shopping trip. So those things. And then before we even get into the budgeting, we're going to set some goals for ourselves. Why are we doing this? Because there has to be a reason, or you're just not going to do it, right? So what's your reasoning? What do you want to be able to do? So it's important to know what your goals are, and they should be SMART goals, right? So that means that they're specific. So that means that I am not going to say, I want to save more money, because that's not a very specific goal. And if I put away an extra $1 a month, am I saving more money? Yes. So have I hit my goal? It's probably not what I had in mind, right? So maybe it's, I want to be able to put $100 a month into a savings account. And so, so somebody has asked, what is a good app to use? Are there any good sheets to use? So we're going to talk about some later, but if you don't want to set it up for yourself, I really like Mint. It is free and it is by the makers of QuickBooks. So the reason that I like Mint is it's an app that you can use on your phone. You do have to, so you have to be confident. So it's made by Intuit. So it's a very well-known, well-protected product. One of the things that I would caution everybody to is choosing a product for your budget where you're going to put confidential information in it by a company that you've never heard of before. So Intuit is by the makers of QuickBooks. We've tried it out. I've tried it out. I've used it before. But you can hook everything up to it. So you can hook your bank account up to it, and it'll tell you, the percentages of how you're spending your money. You can hook your mortgage payment up to it, and it will remind you when it's coming due. It will hook all your credit cards up, and it will track how much you are in debt on your credit. And so it is very high powered. It's a really good, if you're tech savvy, it's a really great program to use. If you're not tech savvy, don't worry, we're going to talk about some less technical ways to do budgets coming up. But I do like Mint for that. I haven't tried many others as far as applications go, only because I am not an application girl. I fail to pay any attention to it. So it's not good for me. And what everybody's going to find is that, what's good for you is not good for somebody else. So it's really finding out what's good for you and what works for you. But there are definitely a bunch of tools out there. But again, I would caution making sure that it's a really well-known product. You don't want to have your identity stolen or compromised or hacked because it's some fly-by-night company just randomly, creating this product. So again, you're going to want to set a SMART goal. So the goals should be something like I want to be able to put $100 away every month, and you can, that's measurable, right? If you've done it, it's achievable, maybe. Is it realistic? Maybe. And yes, it's time-based, right? So it's every month it's going to happen. So the only way to find out if it's realistic and achievable is to get your budget done, right? And for some people, $100 a month might be unrealistic. And that's okay. You just need to know what your realistic and achievable is. If it's not achievable because $100 a month means you will not have one extra spare penny if an emergency happens, then it might not be achievable for you. It might be realistic. Yeah, you can do it, but it might not be achievable. So making sure that it's all of those things is really important, because you do not want to set yourself up for failure, because it's like going in and starting a diet and saying, I want to lose 100 pounds by Tuesday. That's never going to happen. And, even saying, I want to lose 100 pounds is a huge goal, right? So you would want to break that down into smaller tidbits, right? You don't start out, that might be your end goal, but we all work in increments of like 5 pounds or something like that, right? So making sure that specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-based. So if you want to save to go on vacation, I want to save, not money to go on vacation. I want to save $1,200 to go on vacation to Disney. And I know that's probably not enough money, but, so on April of 2022. So you give it a dollar amount and a time amount, and then you're able to figure out how much money you have to put away every month to be able to hit your goal, okay? So that is a really good way to set a SMART goal for yourself. And those goals will help keep you on track for your budgeting, right? It gives you a reason to be doing it. Okay, so what's in a budget? And, you know, somebody was asking about, are there any good sheets that you can use and things like that? I actually have a mini video that I did where I gave a whole bunch of different sheets, and I can send you the video of that. It's on our YouTube channel, and I can put a link to that when I send the follow-up email after this class. But this right here is an Excel spreadsheet, which you can absolutely create on your computer. And you don't have to do it on your computer. You could create it and print it out. You can do it however you want. So making sure that you're doing whatever works for you. So one of the other things were, how do you account for occasional or yearly expenses in a monthly budget? So here's how you're going to do it. So one of the things that I pay quarterly is my trash. So that is not a monthly expense for me, and trash pickup's not on here, but you would do it trash. So the best way to do it is to account for it monthly, and then you know, put a little bit away every month, so that on that third month when that quarterly bill comes due, it's not $100 more than you normally are taking out of your budget, because that is unsurvivable for some people. Okay, so when I'm gonna walk you through putting this together, we're gonna look at each individual thing broken down. Okay, so we're gonna use the numbers that we pulled from our tracking. Okay, so the 3 months that we've taken and we've done some highlighting, and we've said, whoa, I didn't realize I spent that much money. That's what we're going to use to fill out our actual budget. Now, does that mean that our budget will balance at the end of the month? Probably not, but it's really good to see where you're currently at and then make cuts to make it work, because then you can understand why your current spending habits aren't working for you, right? Because you can see where the money's going. If you don't know where the money's going, it's very hard to fix it. All right, so the first thing you're going to do is identify your income. So that could be your income, a spouse's income, a partner's income. If you're a sole, if it's you and just you by yourself, it's a lot easier than if it's two-person. If you have a two-person household, you have to make sure both parties are on board with the budget, because if they're not, the other person's going to tank you before you even start, because they're going to be spending money that you accounted for something else. And I've seen it happen more often than not. So having a conversation when you do this and sitting down and looking at those 3 months worth of tracking and seeing where everybody is spending money. So I will step back for just a minute. When you do that, make sure that it is a safe zone, okay? Because when people really look at bank statements about the dollars being spent, it can become a very enraging conversation if one partner is spending a lot of money. So we can't fix things that have already happened. So getting mad about it when you're trying to get them on board with a budget is probably not the best time. So make it a safe zone. We're trying to fix it moving forward. We can't get back the money we've already spent, right? So that's gone. So no need to be mad about it now. let's talk about the budget and moving forward. And then in that way, both partners are bought into this, right? So it doesn't matter who your partner is. It could be your spouse, it could be your roommate. If you're both sharing finances and you have commingled goals and things like that, you all have to be on the same page. If you don't have commingled finances, fine, then you're on your own and it's all yours. But other things that you should include in your income and things like child support, alimony, or any tips that you're going to get, right? Tips are a very hard thing. If you work for tips or you work for commissions, it's hard to estimate how much you're going to make in any one month. So look at months and track, how much you're depositing. So I will tell you that I do my budget in a journal. So this isn't my budgeting journal, but I have one. And I track a lot of things. I don't work for tips, but if you did, a good thing to do would be to have a couple of pages reserved and every month write down how much money you made in tips. And you'll probably begin to see patterns, right? So like usually maybe December and January, maybe you'll make more tips because people are out partying and spending more money. Maybe August and September, not so many because people are on vacations, they're not eating out as much, kids have gone back to school, people are trying to, whatever it might be, you're going to hopefully see some patterns. And you'll be able to say, okay, this is what I typically make. That being said, do not choose your highest earning month as the basis for what you're going to build your budget on. Choose your lowest earning month because it's always better to have more money than it is to have less money. So after you've identified your income and you've added it all up, you're going to look at your household expenses. Now, these are things that, and I like to break it up because it really helps you get, again, through that bank statement and see where your money's going. And it helps you see where you're spending your money, what each thing is allotted for. So your rent or your mortgage is going to be under household. Cable, cell phone, electric, groceries, they're all going to be here. Now, for things that change or only occur once a year. So say that you have to make a tax payment once a year or twice a year, like you're paying personal property tax, and it's typically on your car and it's going to be $350. What I would do is the total bill. So if it's $350 every 6 months, it's $700 for the year. So if it's personal property taxes and if it's for your car, it probably would come under the next one, automobile expenses. But if it was something for household, like you don't have renter insurance anymore because you've paid off your house. However, that does mean that you will have property taxes every year that you have to pay. So I would put a line item for that. I would divide it by 12 or whatever it is for the whole year. And I would save up for that, right? For something like that, you could have a separate account. But if you have one big pot savings account, just have a ledger somewhere or make notes for yourself what each dollar amount in your savings account is for. I recommend oftentimes, I'll talk about it when I get to the next slide. But so rent, mortgage, cable, cell phone, electric, groceries, total household. So I'm going to go back a couple of slides and just show you why there's a third column here. So up here I have monthly, so that's how much it costs me every month. I have annually, oops, and then I have a monthly goal. Okay, so if we look at this one where we're at now, household. So if one of your goals is that you want to be able to get a better apartment or afford a mortgage, your monthly goal would go here. So maybe it's a different price, right? So if you're paying $700 now and you want to know when you're going to be able to afford $1,200, you put $1,200 here. That being said, when you add up to the bottom, when you get down to the bottom and you add everything up, if you're still in the positive here, you can afford that. If you're in the negative, you have a little bit of work to do on your budget, right? But that being said, you have to do what works for you. If you don't have any monthly goals or you don't want to do it that way, that's fine. Questions have been asked in the past, how do you track a goal? And this is kind of how I'd recommend doing it. As you're able to save more money and you've got more money coming in, you'll be able to see if you can afford it or not. But when you look down at the bottom here, I have $160 left over. I don't know that if $160 left over is enough. Maybe if I'm putting $200 a month in savings, it is. Then, you know, but there needs to be some wiggle room. And only you know how you really live your life. So I could put this together for you, looking at your numbers and tell you to go out and live by a budget, but I'm not living your life for you. You guys are all living your own lives. So you have to make this budget so it works for you. We have to be realistic here in our budget. I could say, don't ever go to Dunkin' Donuts again, and you'll have a ton of money left over. And you'll say, yeah, that's a really good idea. But I need to go to Dunkin' Donuts because I work third shift and the coffee pot's really loud, or, you know, whatever it is. All right, so let me get through here. So we're identifying these household expenses. And again, this is our monthly, this is our annual, and it really helps just to see how much you're spending every year on it, right? Because it's important when you're planning for other expenses to know how much you're spending every year. It also is really helpful to plan when you're thinking about an emergency fund. So if you are setting up an emergency fund, which should be, you know, months of expenses, it's good to know, you know, how much you're paying every year. But if you don't rent, consider if you've paid off your mortgage, maybe homeowners insurance, maybe property taxes. The next one is automobile expenses. Okay, so car payment, car insurance, gas, and any maintenance. So here's what I was saying. Now, car maintenance, putting some away every month can really help you in the end. And maybe $15 is, you know, not enough. If you have extra, you could absolutely put more away. And then when you have to buy new tires or get an oil change, the funds are already there. Things that I recommend for something like this is have your own checking account specifically for your automobile maintenance. You'll be able to write a check out of it or use its own debit card when you go to you know, get new tires or get that oil change. You just use the maintenance fund for your automobile. So basically, it's you know, savings accounts don't earn enough money that if you're not keeping, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars in there, you're not really going to be making enough interest on it to make it worthwhile. So open a checking account, and it will really make it easier for you to keep track of the things that you're saving for. But if you don't have a car, think about, do you have to pay cab or bus fare, Uber rides, gas for friends? So especially what I tell college students is you should put a little bit away for Uber funds every month, because you never know when you're going to need an Uber ride, right? You could go somewhere with a friend and then it might not be safe to ride back with them. So making sure to put a little bit aside. You can put a little bit aside, buy groceries or Uber or gas even by getting gift cards for those things and then just tucking them away to be able to use later. So if you know you're a terrible saver, find ways to be able to save that money that's not cash, that's just not sitting in an account somewhere that looks available. And then personal expenses. So this is where we're going to find we spend a large chunk of our money. Getting our hair cut, eating out, buying new clothes, you know, getting our nails done, stopping at the grocery store for when, even though we've done our groceries for the week, we decided we wanted something different for dinner. So we're going to stop there again. And it wasn't on our initial list. So that would be a personal expense. So I stop at the grocery store frequently because my kids are like, hey, can you pick up some ice cream on the way home? Can you do this? Can you do that? I account that all as personal expenses. So movies, concerts, takeout food, any unnecessary purchases, any travel that you want to do would go here. And then your last section is your liabilities. So these are debts that you owe. Each line, each debt item that you have should have its own line item. So your Visa card, a hospital bill, your student loan. If you have multiple Visa cards, if you have a MasterCard, if you have an American Express, each one should get its own line so that you can see how much money you're spending every month, how much money you're spending every year. And if you wanted, you can track the amount that you still owe on the card by putting it in parentheses after the name of the card, which is really helpful. You know, if you've got some money left over at the end of the month, maybe you don't want to throw it into a savings account. Maybe you want to throw it at one of these bills that you've got, right? So it's really helpful to see exactly how much you owe, how much you're paying, and what's that costing you every year. So this is where you're going to record all of your debt, except for your mortgage, because that got counted under household items. So your credit cards, your store cards, your maybe a home equity loan if you've got one, medical debt that you might have, and you know, any other liabilities that you may have. So that's all going to be counted here. So then we have the final tally. Before that, you should have a line item for savings. How much are you going to be putting in savings every month? And then you're going to take your total income from the top and subtract out your total expenses, and then there should be a difference. I believe that people should operate on what I call a zero budget, meaning at the bottom here, this should be zeroed out, because who has $885 just hanging out? Nobody. It's assigned to something, right? If it's not assigned to a bill, it should be assigned to your savings. You can always pull it out of savings. So at the end of the month, if it's not going towards something else, like your mortgage for the beginning of the next month, just put whatever you have left over into your savings. So that's what it should be allotted for, right? It shouldn't just be like $800 hanging out. I wish I had just $800 just hanging out. So are you in the positive? Are you in the negative? And then you're going to go back and look and make changes. So I don't want people to feel super depressed when they first do this, because if you pull all of the numbers from your bank statements, chances are your budget's not going to work, because we often times have a tendency to spend more money than we're actually bringing in every month. So, and it's living paycheck to paycheck, and you're paying bills from the next month on, you know, you're pulling funds from the next month to pay bills from the previous month. And that's, you know, kind of how it goes. So we're looking to change all that. So when you're looking at your budget, we have what we call the 50-20-30 guideline. And again, I'm going to tell you that this is just a guide. So if you're at 50, 15, 35, you're probably okay. If you're at, 45, 20, 25, again, you're probably okay. But if you're at, 10 and 70, then you have a problem, okay? So 50% of your take-home pay should be your fixed costs. So those are bills and expenses that don't vary from month to month, rent, mortgage payments. So you're looking at, household expenses, auto expenses, and, your liabilities, those debts that you owe. Securing your financial foundation should be 20% of your take-home pay. That is including paying down some credit card debt, saving for retirement, building an emergency fund. So any of those monies that you're putting into savings, or if you have money left over at the end of the month that you're sending to a credit card that's over and above, that can be there. Flexible spending is 30% of your take-home pay. Those are day-to-day expenses that can vary from month to month, like eating out, grocery shopping, hobbies, entertainment, or gas. So what I do say is that gas does vary, but oftentimes we have to pay whatever it is. It's not really flexible. We have to pay. We have to be able to get to work. So don't just take heart there, okay? So it's just a guide though, but this should be able to tell you whether you're in the right place, if your spending is the correct amounts. If it's not, what we often see is that our fixed costs are really high because we're paying maybe more for a mortgage than really works with our budget, more for a mortgage or rent. We also see that maybe securing our financial foundation is really low because we're only paying minimum amounts on things. We're not putting any money into an emergency fund. We're not being able to save any money, and a lot of our money is going towards flexible spending. So you see something like 60, 40, and 0. So, but this is more realistic as to what it should be. And it will really help you be able to tweak your budget. And don't think it has to happen all at once. Like, again, if we're on a diet, we're not going to lose 100 pounds the first month, right? We're going to tweak it until we get there. So we're going to work a little bit to until we can fit into these brackets, instead of like just trying to cram ourselves there and then it doesn't work. So here's some things. Ideally, your house payment should be no more than 28 to 30% of your gross income. So when you went for your mortgage, chances are your lender did these equations, and at the time you fit into there. But things change sometimes. We lose jobs change. What we make might change. We do different things, or potentially, we're renting an apartment and they're not really looking at that. Some rental companies do and some don't. So if you're paying more, you're probably overspending, and maybe it works with your budget and maybe it doesn't. But if it doesn't, you might have to figure out how you can fix that, right? Can you downsize? But downsizing, maybe no, right? But think about, where can I live? So Connecticut has, a huge discrepancy in the cost of housing. If I wanted to live on the coast in Mystic, it's the same house there is going to cost me 50% less than if I lived in Montville. So, it's a different way to look at housing, right? Having the same house someplace different. And this is really a personal choice. Nobody can make this choice for you except for you. If you want to live paycheck to paycheck because you really love your house, then that is a personal choice. And nobody can tell you that you can't do that. If you can afford your mortgage payments, if you're making it work, great. If you're looking to have a little bit more wiggle room, if you're looking to be able to save some more money, then maybe it's time to think about, what it is you're spending your money on. The other thing is automobiles. I say this all the time, we have in my household 2 different cars. I drive a SUV gas guzzler because I don't drive very much. My husband drives more. He drives a Prius. And so it's a hybrid. So but we need the gas guzzler because we have 2 kids and a dog. But when we take long trips, we see what can make it work. If I have to drive further for a day, I take the Prius. So it's seeing what works, right? Do I think both of us should have this huge car? It wouldn't work for us budget-wise. We wouldn't be able to afford the gas for it. So now you've got it all together, you've got your things, but how are you going to set it up? And so like I talked about, there are some apps out there. Mint is one of them, and there's some spreadsheets that are out there that are free for you to be able to get, and I will get you all the links for those. I'll email them to you. But really, you need to do what works for you. You can create an Excel spreadsheet. You can use it on your computer. You can print it out. I like the journal method myself, only because I keep it in a desk drawer next to my couch. And then when I'm getting ready to do my bills, I just break out, my phone, and I sit down, or my computer, and I just sit down and pay everything and do everything and get everything all set, make sure I'm on budget. But if you're more paycheck to paycheck and you are really looking to make changes and see if you want to make changes and see like when bills are coming due, or when you're going to get paid next, calendar budgeting is a really great way to be able to do it. So basically, everybody's got some free calendars right now. So, head into your bank and ask if they've got a calendar for you. So crack it open, and then you start writing on the calendar when everything is coming out. So you write every month what it is, how much it is, and you can color code it, and you can color code it in the same category codes that you color coded your bank statements with, right? So you know what it is. So automobile is blue and household is yellow, whatever it is. And then paydays, you can write those in green, if that makes sense to you. And then you can see the bills that are coming out every time you get paid. What do you have to pay before you get paid again? And you can see if there are any bills that need to get paid before the next time you get paid. So you can see, okay, I get paid on the 26th, but I have a whole week in February that I have bills to pay that I'm not going to have a paycheck until the following week. So it's a really good visual way to visualize money coming in and money going out. So where can you save? So you've got all of your printouts. You can see exactly where you're spending your money, right? So here are some things that I talk about a lot because they're common. Starbucks. So I put this one because this it was me. I drove, before I started working for Chelsea, I drove past the Starbucks every day on the way to work. And I really loved a venti caramel latte. And it cost $5.05. So, okay, fine. That was my every morning thing. So every week it costs me $25.25. And that's a lot of money over the course of the month. But over the course of the year, that's $1,300. So if I'm looking to pay down credit card debt and I don't know where, how could I pay off my, $500 credit card? Well, I could have paid it off 2 times over plus more if I just didn't have Starbucks every day. So it's thinking through, maybe I don't go every day. Maybe I go once a week. Maybe I don't go for 6 months. Maybe, whatever it is. But you have to figure out what works for you, because cutting things out cold turkey doesn't necessarily always work for you. Cup of coffee brewed at home, 27 cents, 5 days a week, $1.35, 52 weeks a year, $70.20, and that's a savings of over $1,200. So this might not work for everybody. Okay, and it might not be your thing. Maybe you're not stopping at Starbucks or Dunkin' or Cumbies every day, whatever it is. But figuring out where you're spending your money, and then how much is that costing you over the year. I don't know if anybody gets their nails done. So for a while, I was having my nails painted every week. An average manicure costs $20. So that's just me going in and saying, please paint my nails, right? That's not me getting tips or fills or gels or anything like that. Just go in, paint my nails, $20. That includes the tip. So the costs add up. If I did it every week, which most of my jobs that I have had are heavy typing. I spend a lot of time on the computer, so they get easily chipped. That's over $1,000 a year just getting my nails painted. Couple of nice bottles of nail polish, $16, and that's a savings of over $1,000. Now, do I say that you have to give up Starbucks forever, or that you should never have your nails done in a salon ever again? No, but if we're looking for ways to cut our expenses to be able to pay down some debt so that we have a little bit more wiggle room in our budget, then, maybe there are some things that we can give up for short times. Cable is another one, but that really was warfare in my house for a long time because of sports, but it's a little bit different now. You can pay for some different things. So it's really important if you get this done, if you're able to stick to a budget and you get it going, that you reward yourself. So if your goal was to be able to put $100 a month into a savings account and you're able to do that, then now's the time to get yourself that Starbucks, right? That's your reward because you gave it up so you'd be able to do that. Did you pay off all of your credit cards? Maybe it's time for a really nice dinner out. Just don't put it on the credit card. So it's rewarding yourself, but then you have to remember that you've rewarded yourself, but then you have to get back to the budget, right? So it's kind of like that cheat night when you're dieting. Like when I used to go to Weight Watchers, my friend and I used to go out to eat after weigh-in on Weight Watchers night because we had just weighed in. We knew we didn't have to weigh in for another full week. So that was our cheat night. So we weighed in, and then after Weight Watchers was over, we went out to eat. And so, but then we were right back at it. So you have to get right back to it. There are some resources for you. There is a budgeting tool on our online e-learning platform. You do have to log in every time to be able to use it, but it does save it for you if you create an account. So every month you'd have to go in and readjust it. It's not perfect. It is something, it's a great start. It allows you to set goals for yourself, and it's a really fun tool. You can find that at chelseagroton.enrich.org/budget. And that's a really good tool to use. I'm sorry, I will type that into the chat so that if anybody wants it, they can go there. So you can copy and paste that. There's also a simple budgeting workshop sheet there. If you get to the link that I just sent you, it will send you to our e-learning platform. It's free. You don't have to, there's no cost to you. It's something that we provide. There's also some webinars about budgeting, like your most frequently asked questions. So if you get done with tonight and you get into it and you're like, man, I forgot what she said about this, or I wish I would ask this question, there's definitely articles and all kinds of information on our e-learning platform for you. And that's all at chelseagroton.enrich.org. So you can feel free to absolutely use that as a resource. And you can absolutely feel free to reach out to me at any time. I'm happy to answer emails to you regarding questions that you have. If you get into it and you're like, I'm doing this and this is where I'm having a problem, definitely feel free to reach out. So that is what I had for everybody tonight, and I'm happy to answer any other questions that people have, or if I didn't answer a question that somebody had wanted to a good enough answer, I'm happy to expound on that.